Welcome to another episode. Today, I have a very exciting personality with me. He's a multimedia journalist with Khalij Times in UAE, currently also running a morning breakfast show, talk show, Morning Majlis on Pulse 95. And you can see he's in his studio right now. He does cover a lot of coverage to sports and news and also written the travel stories. Please welcome Abdul Karim Hanif. Abdul, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Abdul, just tell us about yourself.
I'm a broadcast journalist based in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, where I have a morning show on Pulse 95 Radio. It's a talk show that is hosted in Sharjah. And I also I'm a multimedia journalist where I present videos, and this is mainly feature interviews as well as news events and stories that are focusing on the human interests of the residents in the UAE. And we are covering a range of topics. I have to wear multiple hats at times, where I can also get involved in travel writing, talk about what's happening, new areas for people to explore in the UAE, hidden gems, and also for them to spend their afternoons or mornings or even weekends wherever they want to. So it's looking at the city, bringing it to life for people, and that's where the video production aspect comes. But originally I started off as a news presenter for a local TV network. So that's how I started my career. But before that, I was based in the UK, and I studied international relations. I was very interested in the world of politics and how the world operates. And now getting into the news media aspect, it opens up, gives me more of a perspective of how things are working behind and in front of the camera, as opposed to in the diplomatic rooms.
Okay, great. Abdul, I was looking at your profile and it's really amazing. You're born in Saudi Arabia, then you brought up in Dubai, and
Yep.
educated in UK. Very quite diverse multicultural experience. Does that help you in your career?
I think it played a massive role because growing up in Saudi Arabia as an expat as well, you always felt you're part of an international community, and you're always open to new challenges, and always growing up in an international school, you're meeting people from different cultural backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, learning about them. That kind of helped the understanding and the connections of different cultures, and how you can have that diversity in you, and a very diverse upbringing from a very young age. And then from the age of 10, I started living in the UAE, also went to an international school here, where we had students from the UK, from India, Pakistan, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Romania, and Western Europe, Eastern Europe. So you weren't restricted to one particular way of living. You were exposed to how different people from different backgrounds celebrate the festivities, the way they communicate, the way they socialize. What's normal for one end of the group is not going to be normal for the other group, and that diversity just helps us, or me, to groom into someone who can connect with different cultures in a different way. So, for example, if you meet and communicate with the Emiratis or the Gulf people, you have a particular way of particular conversations that would interest them. And if you meet a person from Pakistan, from India, from Bangladesh, or South Asia, there are particular ways and mannerisms and the conversation that you can feel normal with. And then when it comes to the Western aspects, or even the European, there's some forms of some conversations that are normal, or a normal way of greeting and being friendly with others. So that's all-rounder approach was very, very important through those upbringings, growing up in the UK as well, in Dubai or UAE or in Saudi Arabia.
So after growing up in this diverse culture, right, and meeting with so many people, when did you decide to become a journalist?
I always believe for a lot of people who become journalists or want to pursue journalists or journalism, it's an early call. So you face that kind of a thrill or excitement at a very young age, especially when you're growing up or in school. So I would say when I was the age of 10 or 11, I started a satirical newspaper within our school. I was in year 5, and I started something called, inspired by Khalij Times. It was called Karim Times, where I would write funny stories about if someone fought with or someone got, or earned good marks or bad marks, or did really well in sports, or won something and something or the other. I would make a weekly newspaper saying, okay, such and such individual, hype the story up a little bit more and say, okay, he did this and this is what happened. This is how the fight started. And according to other people, this is what happened. This shouldn't have happened. Or particular individuals scored high marks in exams. And he says that he studied for 5 hours a day. Is it true? Can we do it? So I used to make some funny kind of stories within our classroom. A class-based newspaper, but it didn't still convince me that I'll definitely be a journalist, but you could tell that this is what I liked. But what really changed and made me pursue journalism was when I was in university, and I thought that after graduating, I was studying international relations, I thought that after graduating, I will become a diplomat. United Nations is going to come with open arms, get me on board and say, you're the right person to change the world or improve it. The reality hits you that you've got to find a proper job, and you can't just become a diplomat straight away. So in the university, we had a union or a society called Leeds Student Newspaper, which has become the Griffin now, a Griffin, and we also used to have Leeds Student Radio and Leeds Student TV. I got myself involved there, and yes, all the students that were in the society were film students or media students. I wasn't a media student, but I brought the political understanding to the network or the society. I learned the skill of what a video is, how to video edit and all that stuff through that. And I think that that's where it hit me. And then in the second year of university, Pakistan's ex-president Pervez Musharraf came to Leeds Met University, but I told Leeds Student TV that I want to take this video or cameras and do an interview with him. So when I sat down with him and I saw this personality growing up for 10 years or 9 years on television, to suddenly finally shake his hand and him making that eye contact with me, I think that thrill was it, and that was number one for me.
Okay, great, interesting. Abdul, a lot of people have inspired by you, and you have a lot of followers. Is anyone you say that you are inspired, or you can say it's my mentor?
What I would say is, obviously, to become a journalist or a broadcast journalist, you're meant to follow a particular individual, their style of presenting and reporting, and then you get inspired by that. I don't think I have a mentor that I'm regularly in touch with or seek help from or advice from. It would be anyone who I come across and I know they're working for a bigger network or are a journalist around in the UAE or elsewhere. I'd say Stephen Saka was the presenter on BBC. He did hard talk programs. I really liked his style of presenting. Now, I don't follow his style of presenting, but when I used to listen to him and see how he used to conduct the interviews and formulate a discussion, I was very inspired by him. Then there are a number of presenters, let's say, even in the UK, that I like watching. I liked reading about Dan Harris in America. He wrote a book about, I think it was called 10% Happiness or something related to that, but it was more about how he struggled with a panic attack on air whilst he was presenting a show, and he wrote a book about it, and I read that book as well. So I do get inspired by people who've been in my position or have become journalists and become big figures and well-known personalities. But the struggles everyone goes through, the nerves on the stage, whether it's being concerned about anything, I get inspired by that. So I think that those are the people that I would say, keep me going.
Okay, that's a good point. So I'm going to link my next question. Has ever happened that you're going for a big interview or a podcast and you're meeting this personality, you're super excited, and things gone wrong? And it does happen, right?
Things go wrong all the time, yes. So now things can go wrong in a way where your chain of thought because a lot of people write questions beforehand, and that's good. Prepare your questions beforehand, turn up with a list of questions and list of talking points, because you have to sometimes give those questions before you're interviewing a personality or an individual. Precedent for sure, you have to give those talking points. Now, you want to stick to that conversation and stick to the flow of questions you've got. There will be times when you get distracted or you have that little bit of a blank space where you've forgotten where your next conversation or next topic is. I face that almost every other interview, where you sort of forgets where you wanted to take that conversation. Things can go wrong that way. So the best way to do is act, be in control of this conversation. Look for a clue or something that's either in the previous answer or something that you can remember on that spot, and then revert back to the question that you have. Yes, if you ask something off the script, you'll see a lot of people or individuals running around thinking, oh my God, why did he ask this question, or what's going on? Keep the calmness and keep calm and let the conversation flow and let the person answer. And especially if it's live, you got to keep it going. If it's recorded, it's easier. You can say, look, apologies if you're uncomfortable, it's all recorded. It's okay. We can move on to the next question. Is there any particular topic that you want to focus on in this answer? And if he says, I want to talk about this, you pick it up from there and keep going. So that's one thing. Technical aspects, cameras can switch off, battery can run out, memory cards are full, mic wasn't working. There was an interview that I did with Anwar Maqsood. I was really hyped up for it. He's a philosopher, poet, speaker, intellect in Pakistan. I did an interview with him. It was great. I loved it. I come back to edit and I find out that his mic was off, my mic was on. Okay. So I had to sort of edit it in a way where I raised my voice in the editing, my microphone, and whatever I can capture of him, it's there. And sadly, just didn't sound good at all. And eventually I had to reschedule the interview, and the interview was rescheduled for a few weeks or a few months down the line. So that was a bitter pill to swallow, but it has happened. So that was one of the interviews from what I can remember. But there have been instances where we've lost footage, we've had to resort to stock footage, and yeah, it happens.
Yeah, okay. For my audience, if you want to know all the things Abdul covers, then go have a look. I will leave the link, abdulonair.com. There will be a link below in this video. And it's really exciting. You can see all the pictures there, your profile, which is, I quite liked it actually. So I will leave it there for my audience. Abdul, when would you say you have taken the first step that changed your life? And I ask these questions, all the guests who comes to my podcast. And some people say to me, oh, that was 6 months ago. Or some people say it was 10 years ago. And I'm glad I took that step that changed my life.
That's a good question. I would say choosing the university, of course, that's one step. And I think everyone goes through a number of steps in their life. It could be, say, buying a car, buying something, investing in something or the other. So I would say, obviously, going to university abroad, where I was living in Dubai, family here. I have an older sister who graduated from a university in Dubai. And for me to say I want to go and live on my own in the UK, in Leeds, where I didn't have many family members around. I'm going to walk into a country and I'm going to spend 3 years just being. 3 years is a long time, and I'm just going to take up this role. I don't know how to set up a bank account. I don't know how to shop for myself. I don't know how to cook for myself. I know how to arrange my wardrobe. Yes, I know basic things, but this is a 3-year thing. And I remember when I landed in the UK, with a sigh of relief, okay, I'm finally got enrolled into university that I wanted, but I've got 3 years. I don't know what to do. I'm here, and I remember that particular moment, and I always remember it. Is when I sat down on the bed, and I thought it was my student dorm, Leodis accommodation in Leeds, looking at the walls of my student room and thinking, what have I just done with my life? This is a whole new experience. To an extent where I went into the kitchen to make my lunch, my first meal in the UK, I didn't know how to open a can. I tried using a spoon to open. You're so spoiled living in the Gulf region or in Asia, where your parents are there, your uncles are there, your aunties are there, anyone, someone, one or the other is there to look after you or care for you. But when you reach a country like the UK, where people have to, survive on their own, it's each to their own, and yes, they'll help you out, but it's still each to their own. So yeah, I think that moment of taking that big step of joining the university was something that I would say changed my life. Okay, so that's one thing. Secondly, choosing when I got the job opportunity for City 7 TV, my first job in a TV network in Dubai, the pay wasn't great. The pay that they were offering was, let's say, a fraction of a rise from where I was. I assumed that this pay is going to be huge because it's a TV station. The pay wasn't good. The hour is going to be different. It's TV, and I was in an established marketing agency, and I'm walking into, yes, a local TV, but it wasn't Reuters, it wasn't CNN, it wasn't BBC that people would die and jump on this job for. And I thought, just for maybe a few thousand dirhams increase in my wage, I'm going to leave an established organization, which is an international firm, to a local news outlet. Is this going to be something that I'm okay with? And I think that when I took that step and I said, look, no, I've got to do this, I'd say was another game changer in my life. And of course, the last memory that I remember is one of the recent memories is, of course, getting married. I think
meeting your life, of course.
I think it changes everyone's lives. I think you grow up in that one specific decision once you sign the contract, the marriage contract, or once you wear the ring. Things change, and things have changed for the better, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, good. You just said, you changed your job and it was not really a high pay rise or stuff, but yeah. I believe in that. Sometimes you have to take the risks and push yourself. And if you are on the right track and you put the right effort and you're consistent, I think the results will come. And that's what I believe in. Like people say, okay, I'm not moving from here. And they are in that bubble, that comfort zone. And that stops them to grow, right?
Yes.
Abdul, what message you'll give to someone who wants to change their life and want to do something, entrepreneurial skills, they want to do their business, they want to go for some specialized field in study, but they're reluctant for obvious reasons. Oh, what's my friend will say? Oh, I want to try a podcast, for instance. Or everyone, I will be embarrassed. People have this.
True.
What message you'll give to that person?
I would say, obviously trust your gut feeling. If your heart is into it, if you really like with something that you want to do and you're very passionate about it, then of course go for it. Of course, starting a business has its risks associated with it. There's monetary risks. It's a lot of people are dependent on it. So if it's too much of a risk, for example, evaluate it. I'd say do the cost benefit analysis, speak to your peers, friends, family. Number one, always trust your family. If they say, no, this particular thing is not good or it's not worthy, then obviously don't go for it. But if it's too much of a risk that you could end up in debt, for example, like, you're launching a massive company, a production house or wherever, I'd say if you want to do something, start slow or follow someone or do a little bit of, let's say, internship kind of an experience, go into someone who runs a business, because everyone associates the term business with immediate, you've got money, you're a businessman or a businesswoman, you're an entrepreneur, you're obviously very wealthy, even people who invest in stocks and stuff. So you could associate to them and say, okay, these guys have a lot of money, but that's a perception. You never know the harsh realities, the checks and balances, the taxation, the issue of paying the staff wages on time or anything. So yes, there are a lot of risks associated with a business. So my advice to them is obviously do an overall search and analysis whether it's a good thing or not. Whether it's choosing a career, of course, when I chose the broadcast journalism or any journalism career, yes, the pay isn't as amazing as one would assume it to be, but it's something that in my heart, it was the right thing to do because it's putting me in this, or I'm chasing a particular goal towards being a broadcaster or a journalist. And it was a local TV, and I knew everyone starts small. Everyone, you take those baby steps, and those baby steps are very important. The last thing I would say to a lot of people is when they do well, do something really good, their ego is boosted, they become famous and, they're well known, is to not lose track of where you first started. Remember the first day of when you started your career or made that life-changing decision, remind yourself that you're that person. You're not someone who's become, let's say I've done journalism for 10 years. Yes, there are people who recognize my work and, they want to sometimes take selfies or sometimes appreciate what I do. And there are times when I'm in a bit of a rush and these people come and they say hello and stuff. And I got to go somewhere. I have to be somewhere. Is remember, and I always remind myself that you are the person who was knocking on doors for a job first. And you were the person who was busy on LinkedIn or on job portals looking for that role. Now you are that person. You're still the same, you're still from back, always remind yourself back to ground zero and just stay humble and just be, I wouldn't say tell them that you are replaceable, but think of it in the lines that, yes, I am where I am because of other opportunities that have come to me in the past. So it's not just me as a personality or wherever. So always think back to how it all began.
A great message. Stick to your roots. Yes.
Yeah, stick to your roots, basically. Yeah.
Abdul, on this note, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy. Thank you.
Thank you, Tosif. Thank you.
Much appreciated.